Okay, it's been a while since I've made a video. Just haven't really felt like doing too much writing, and also really haven't had too many proper audiences in the past. So was very rusty, um, was- and just really didn't have a chance to get any real feedback from anyone. But this is something I actually wrote last year. Uh, Basically, someone helped me out at a difficult spot, and I asked, do you have any requests, for the kind of poems I do? And conveniently, they did have one that lined up. I mean, that's not something that too many people often may try to ask, saying that they have a more obscure artist that was that they liked the most. And I know not everyone has the same kind of tastes, and sometimes there just isn't enough to really work with. I mean, I once did a tribute to Bad English, and only ever had two CDs. And said, and while in this case the greatest hits is really good, um, there was only so much you could really work. But I did use all the song titles, said including the two titles of their albums. And said, and so while it is possible to make one of these little poems out of just a handful of songs, that doesn't always work with everyone. Sometimes songs are either too obvious to guess, so like where's the fun in that, or they may have like a really weird may often be different, like if they're foreign. So sometimes they'll have both their native language to choose from, and then also the English version. So sometimes that might be a little bit strange if someone doesn't know too much about that. I mean, I once did another thing with, it was an English band, but no one really knew much about them. So you kind of have to choose what kind of battles you want. But this one was a bit more unique. Instead of letting you guess everything, it's the Red Hot Chili Peppers. I really didn't really listen to too much of their music. The one thing I really did enjoy involving them was their drummer Flea, because he was in the did the show The Wild Thornberries as their as and he was the wild boy Donnie. And I just never knew how exactly they managed to animate everything he did. It's like either did they give him a bunch of lines to possibly say, and then they said, okay, we'll draw it afterwards, or yeah, we want you to be weird this way. But I do admit this one was a bit on the darker side, so you can almost would say that's the burn of the peppers, but you'll understand why. And I'm thinking, I don't know how I actually managed to get all this out, because there are some times, you go through you make your list of song titles, you can, you know, I don't like to actually repeat any of the song titles, and rarely ever do. Said unless it's like the same word, twice, or sometimes if they have the same title as the album. That's But once those start running out of easier things, you kind of wonder how exactly do I finish this, and you're pretty much staring at a list. It said the remains of a list, because you either cross them out or you do something so that you know that these are the only ones left. So, and in the end, I was actually kind of proud. The person I gave this to really liked it. Um, they said they didn't actually expect me to this kind of work. Not like anything bad. It was just like I didn't actually expect that. I mean, I like when I once wrote a poem for a graduation ceremony. I used it with Phil Collins, and that one was a bit on the weird side, but it somehow worked. And everyone said only you would be able to um, kind of find a way to kind of put everything together, because you never know what you're going to get when you start with. Because if you have someone that's been around for like so many years, like 20, it's like 20 or more, and they have a lot of albums. There's a lot to actually, choose from, and you want to make sure you use most of what you actually can. So, yeah, trying to find one's place in this world is hard because we all have to taste the pain of growing up in a society where the power of equality is almost non-existent. From others forcing their ideas of being normal on everyone without thinking of the consequence of having a warped perspective on seeing others suffer from not getting to higher ground to escape the next conflict that said concealed that was concealed in the thick shadows. It said feeding on the evils of high society, all because the fire of compassion is only a few embers. Many people turn to religion, said, for guidance, using um, the ideas of an amazing afterlife as a reason for all the strife of living, and the illusion, and the illusion of peace. Said, and love can help keep some of the shadows at bay with the light of glory. Yet there is more than one factory of faith wanting to share a message of hope to make you feel better while also causing conflict among those who follow a different faith. You see why this is controversial. I'm not an atheist or anything like that. Just it's almost like if you were to take a step back and and listen to the messages, they kind of preach. That's kind of what it is. So just figure I'd get that out first. As fragile humans, we believe in what gives us a reason to smile, because after experiencing many moments of turmoil, there is a moment to relax and look around for anything else to provide more joy with other lost souls. Proving happiness loves company just as much as misery, said by using the newly formed groups as an anchor in case an encore of relief is possible, and is sir, sir, a place meant to be preserved so people know this is the place where anyone can escape their problems for a little while. It's possible to live a life where you believe in people because it's hard to concentrate on living a pure life when temptation exists everywhere. But it's only natural to be curious about almost anything in the world, and there are a few handfuls of difficult topics most people should never think of to avoid being branded as a monster. So there are those who try to hang there are those who try to hang over everyone like a police helicopter, it said, to try to thwart even the briefest moment of weakness with the ready-made gospel to enforce order. It said even if you can buckle down and focus on making a better life for yourself by resisting any unsavory acts, life isn't on a straight path because even a minor thing can shift your journey in a huge way, and you could end up someplace unexpected that might as well be outer space where there is no one to turn for guidance. So you have to reach out for someone new and rely on blind faith to find your newest way home. He said, he said, he said it won't be as chaotic as choosing the correct spot said as an anxious game of roulette. No one wants to admit uh, this about the honor boys of religion, but always you sing the same song, so with the naive intentions of making others see the path towards a savior that condemns everyone who is lost until they relinquish old habits so that the unlimited love of a higher power can work. Even though a truly good soul never passes judgment on anyone stranded on their lengthy journey toward salvation. One way to find your own peace is to admit that you're not on solid ground, but wet sand that gives away so easily when you apply a little pressure. Yet, you don't sink into the unknown if you take a moment to appreciate how many steps have been taken, said, and you know you can't stop being a human wanting a place to feel secure instead of feeling like you're naked in the rain without a glimmer of sunlight. Even if you have a real tearjerker backstory to tell people, you may not find guidance among certain groups because they cannot tear themselves from their glorious lives to listen to those who need help finding a way out of the darkness, and the bastards of light don't want to try to perform their own small miracles alone, as they belong to one big mob with members said who want to be the one to achieve some form of demented glory and get on top of the rest of the nervous group, and said sadly forced to keep score. There are, there are those who think falling into grace is easy by following some rules and doing nothing else to keep on the ideal path of glory. That is a one-way traffic street that doesn't allow for any exits that are able to provide alternate routes to to transcending sinners. This ruins any compassion for a society made up of so many people. And said, and if being shallow be thy game, said, then you'll never know the true depths of, of the human soul. And sadly, there is a long progression of such people on the streets today. Never judge anyone till you've gotten to know them, because the righteous and the wicked desire said to be seen as normal people, and said who don't want to be told what to do by those with porcelain skin and little concern for common folk after being dosed with too much wicked propaganda about how the human race should behave, no matter if they live in the biggest cities or rarely leave the backwoods. So out of fear of being seen as different, even though they're walking down the same road of fate like everyone else. All around the world, there will always be those who feel like they don't truly belong with the rest of the crowd. Said admitting that all those judgmental eyes torture me to the point where it's not worth the effort to try to stand out, and said before the next round of anxiety comes to knock me down back into my hole in the ground, said, or back under the bridge. Said bridge people can still walk over you without the slightest care. I have also felt like an outsider in this modern world, like how a jungle man visits a big city and is petrified with the sight of too many faces making noises. That makes it hard to fight like a brave warrior in the battle of life where things can go wrong long before the stroke of midnight and disaster strikes. Somewhere in the middle of nowhere, there is no one to carry me home, just to prove that I still have a few people who genuinely want to look out for the strange man who wants to make others smile. One bad said influence on my life was my mother, who always said, if you have to ask, the answer is no, said to keep me in my forlorn state. Like, I'm not the one meant to be the family favorite, despite me staying out of as much trouble as possible. And if any gift came our way, my mother would give it away before anyone knew that it was never to be owned in the first place. Meaning, I had to be the poster child for suffering after the fact. And there are the ways said other cruel people used to ensure joy must be achieved. Another issue that another issue I face, like many other who silently suffer, is that me and my friends have drifted apart, and said to provide emotional support. And sadly, there is nobody weird like me to have enough common ground to dispel any tension, to meet a few new faces at a simple coffee shop, to spend a little time learning something new about the world of the 21st century through the eyes of these new people who only thought they would find new friends in a parallel universe where there isn't any fear of strangers. When I met some of my old friends, I could have lied and said that my life had been simple, said, and when on that day many years ago, I made the getaway of a lifetime, where I left my old home and never found a reason to return because I enjoyed the area. Said, but never is a long time that slips by faster than anticipated. While I've survived through roughly 13 years in exile, I still have the emotional scar tissue from not doing it sooner, so to enjoy many walkabouts of the mountains with my struggle to find peace. Said, all I can say about life is that there are many people who wish they could say, shoot me a smile said to an unlimited amount of people so that they can ride the longest wave across the oceans of uncertainty without feeling judged, said, and not thinking you need the defense of a slow battleship that is also tossed around along the difficult waves. Meaning it's hard to search and destroy any negative emotions until the water is serene and the hunter inside of you can return to the grace journey said towards a better life. No matter what happens in the future, with this poem in hand, I am with you whenever you need me. For anything to provide strength to get up and jump into this world, and say without feeling blue, knowing that as humans, we turn red with many different emotions if we aren't afraid to be ourselves and try every day and say to do something a little better. So please don't forget about me like I'm something lost in the attic. Always remember, and said, if your good fortune fade away for a little while, there are those who have yet said to get it back for even a moment to keep hope alive for one hot minute. So there is room to breathe in a world that is in need of more smiles from those who think you have to be brave from afar while they watch and wait. It said, for how it said it ends this incredibly strange experiment called the human race. So, yeah. Part of that was kind of another jab at my mother. Like when I had the last poem, she just wasn't a nice person. She kind of, turned a little bit towards religion, but she was just one of those people that said, you have to give me everything and I'll see what I can do. And I guess she never just made the greatest amount of plans it said, because at one point I could have had a chance to go to school, back in my home state. I won't tell you where, um, just for obvious reasons. All I know is it said, but she never really took the time to basically kind of make sure that I had everything ready to go. I mean, she did look into some. It said things for me while she was running errands, but I think if it said if I was actually there to actually talk to people, that I might have figured a few things else for my life. Because after when I actually moved up into the mountains, I basically had a liberal arts kind of degree because they didn't have any English. It said English programs at the first one school I went to, and then I was able to kind of get my bachelor's in professional writing. That this kind of helped me allow to use it, but after a while, I just really wasn't there. And then I'm thinking, well, what else was I good at? That was helpful and would give me a chance to start new. So I went back to school and I became a massage therapist. Everyone was actually a lot of people were a little bit older than I was, and that kind of allowed me a chance to say, you know, we can do this together. As a new family, because that is definitely an interesting program. You learn a lot of things about the human body that you never thought. Um, like the fact that you actually have a bone in your throat that isn't really attached to anything. It's called the hyoid bone. Or in this case, another thing is that you actually have this stuff called ground substance or fascia, as we learned it, all throughout your body. So if you ever wondered what exactly makes your skin stay on, why doesn't it just instead why exactly keeps us together? It's just a cosmic glue, essentially. It doesn't have to make sense. All you know is that if you ever pull the skin off a chicken and there was that kind of gooey stuff in the center, that's all it was. It's nothing too complicated, but as one of my first teachers said, you're drinking from the fire hose at first, but that doesn't. It's a lot of complicated stuff. You know, anywhere you go. But that doesn't mean that, yes, it's going to be painful to drink from the fire hose, but you're still able to get a drink every so often. And, even the most powerful of fire hoses, do have do have the few times where they have to be turned off. And it's not as impossible to kind of drink things in. So, yeah. So, Yep. Said I've got a few other poems. I'm probably gonna release it in a few days. It's kind of late where I am right now. I mean, it's already after 1 o'clock. Um, it's gonna be a bit on the chaotic side. It's a busy time for me at work. Won't tell you where I work, and because there are certain people that once if they figure it out, they'll cause way too many problems for me. And it's like, you know, it said they don't. It said they haven't really tried to make that kind of relationship. So if this kind of goes south for me, it said because someone wanted to make a stink. Um, yeah, but this will be. Instead, I've got a couple poems ready to go. The next two will actually be from an artist I've actually done before, and I just kind of keep kind of coming back to this group. Um, Not entirely sure why. It's just probably because I think it's almost kind of like billiard balls. How even if you line them up exactly the same way, they will bounce around so many times, before they stop to make the next hit. And yeah, and it's kind of like you take another look, and I forget. When the last time I did them, I wasn't entirely sure if I used too much from their newest album. So anytime someone has a new album, that will kind of give me a chance to get back to actually try to write something different, because sometimes those few extra song titles are what exactly I need to say, you know what, I need that before. I mean, not like saying that the previous poem wasn't good. It was just like this is something extra, almost like saying, here's a really good hamburger. But then like you actually finally get options to put condiments on it, and then saying, hey, here's a new type of bacon, or sautéed mushrooms and onions, or whatever you like on your burger. It's like I've never tried it that way. I wish I had known about it sooner. So please give me a like on this video, and I hope to see you guys again very soon. All right, bye.